Hey YouTube, this is Tera Synth, another synth suggested by my Patreon patrons. It's a fully modular synthesizer, but it's not set up like most modular synth apps where you've got like all these various modules that you're dragging all over the place. Instead, it presents it in a much more traditional fashion. There's some differences between this and traditional modular synths, which is that it's fully polyphonic. But it can be approached in the same sort of modular fashion of just throwing modulator after modulator after modulator at different things. And that's kind of what I want to do. I want to combine these two approaches. I'm going to make a monophonic pad that's huge because I'm going to be using lots of different modulators to make it grow and do all kinds of interesting things. So the first step here is going to be to turn on some effects. Like, listen to the differences it makes. Sorry, this is just a C there, but if I throw in a bunch of effects, it's already coming to life. I'll pull down the chorus a little bit. It can be a pretty interesting effect, but like this. I want to make it a little calmer because there's going to be a lot going on in here. And I'm going to start off with this sawtooth, but let me start playing around with my amp envelope for a ADSR on the amp envelope. I'm going to be using a lot of attack to get it to grow right off the bat. So let me bring that up a lot. And give it a whole bunch of release. Maybe not quite that much release. Alright, and let's see. I'm going to break this apart. I'm going to be using all three oscillators and all three filters individually in different ways. So I'm going to throw in oscillator 1 directly into filter 1, and I will... Alright, that's already listening to filter 1, and I'm going to start to shape this a little bit. Actually, you know what? I'm going to actually make this bigger first. It's got the... On the first oscillator, you've got pulse... Or no. Yeah, you got pulse, but you've also got spread. So, listen to this. So once again, I'm just hitting one key, like a big sound. But there's too much of the abrasiveness of the saw. I want it to just get the low end of that saw, so I'm going to be filtering this pretty aggressively. And I'm going to throw in a second ADSR envelope to do a fairly traditional sort of filter envelope thing where it's got no attack, maybe a little bit of attack in this case, and it's mostly just decaying into a zero sustain. So with this, it does that sound, which is fun. Give it a little bit more decay than that, though. And the filters have their own drive, which is a lot of fun. And what I just did there, I should have said it while I was doing it. I brought up the cutoff so I could listen to the full extent of how the drive is affecting the body. I want this low kind of grumble thing. I'm trying to go for like a rich sounding pad that's got like menace written all over it. that's a pretty good start. And now I'm going to slot in oscillator 2 into filter 2 and swap this over here at the mixer so that you're only hearing oscillator 2 through filter 2 right now, which is defaulting to using FM, and I'm not going to be using FM here. One thing that I discovered in here that I really like is among all these different oscillator types you've got, there's these negative slopes, which are quite interesting. As you go through the list... Wait, there's something else going on here. Oh shit, that's oscillator 3. No wonder that's not working. Alright. Turning off FM ratio there. And the negative slope. I'll start with 2. As you go down the list, it sounds darker and darker, but it still sounds big, which is great for this application. I'm going to go for something that's kind of in the middle here. So that is a lot of fun. I don't need any of the FM or stuff. I'm not going to screw around with the pulse modulation either. Although that's pretty tempting. We might do that later. So now I'm going to go over to filter 2, which is working on this. And I want to use the second type of... There's a lot of different filter types in here. The second type of 24 decibel low pass does a much rounder sort of slope. Like, listen to this. I'm going to give you some cutoff. That does not sound like that's doing anything. Aha! Somehow that got switched. All right. All right. So you hear that. And it's still got some of the stuff at the top of that. With the low pass 2, it's a little rounder. It's really cutting off a lot of that stuff that's going on at the upper reaches. And for this, I'm going to be doing the opposite type of ADSR envelope that we have on the first filter, which starts off really strong and then gets quiet. This one's going to start off silent and become louder. I don't want it to be fully cut off, but silent. And I'm going to push this up with ADSR 3, I think is the one that I'm looking for now. Let me double check that I've used 1 and 2 correctly. Yes. All right. So ADSR 3 is going to have a full sustain, no decay. The release can stay as it is, and a whole bunch of attack. And I want this attack to be similar to the decay on the first one, so that the first one does its thing of spiking up and coming down, and then as it's coming down, this one's going to come up. So let me actually throw in both so you can hear that. And I'll tweak it from there. So this is the first one. Oh yeah, I need to actually tell it to start using that new ADSR. I had a hard time getting the levels of this correct. And all of my settings seem to be correct. I thought maybe I had forgotten or had some other extra modulator thing going on here, but this all looks right. I'm not sure why it's not coming up at the volume I expect here. Oh, that's weird. That should be a lot louder. You know what? I'm going to have to... Alright, I got an idea. We got this mixer here that's right next to me. So I will employ this by telling it to ignore all these other inputs that it thinks that I want to use, because I don't want to use them. I'm going to use filter 1. How do I want to do this? Yeah. Put filter 1 and filter 2 into here. And now I can mix them against each other. So let's pull down filter 1, pull up filter 2, and now tell this to just be giving me this mixer. Alright, you're already starting to hear that a lot more. It's not as dramatic as I had hoped. Let me try increasing the octave of the second oscillator. So I just used the coarse tuner to bring it up 12 to bring it up a full octave. That's cutting through a lot more. It's giving us a lot of interesting stuff versus the growly low end of the first oscillator. I think that the attack on that is coming in a little too fast, so I'm going to tweak that a little bit. I want there to be a gap between the two, and I think that just little notch there really helps out. So that brings us to the third filter, which is a formant filter. And formant is just a fancy word for the way that vocals sound. So it's the vowels in speech. And if you throw a complex and interesting oscillator at a formant filter, you can shape it to get all kinds of different sounds. Like just if you're really patient with it, you can get it talking. But I'm gonna use it to do kind of like this. Like I'm hearing like howling on the wind sort of thing. Let's see if I can pull that off. My formant filter now is the output, and that is going to be listening to oscillator 3. And let me set oscillator 3 because I screwed around with that before. I'm going to try a triangle here. It's should sound distinct from everything else that's going on. Should sound something. Ah, here we go. So there's 3 different filters in this, and you can shape different vowel sounds with each of the cutoff frequency knobs here. So I'll make this dramatic so you hear it. I want to get the low part of that because this is going to be sitting underneath the other 2 oscillators that are doing the down and up thing. This is going to sit underneath it as a bed of just the howling winds. So I want to get something that's kind of windy. But still melodic. Like I'm listening, I don't know if you can even hear it, but there's a little bit of the tone that I'm playing coming through on this. I just want that hint of it. So I like that first one. And I'm going to bring in the second filter. And this is just to reinforce that first one, but at a different filter frequency, so I'm getting different formants. And I'm going to throw this into the mixer here. I was thinking about doing something fancy, but I really want to make sure you guys are hearing this. So let me switch all this back on using just the mixer. Because I'm worried that whole thing that I did inform it, you're going to hear if you're not using decent headphones, or maybe you had to crank it up or something. But with this, I can now pull it all together. Is there a drive on the... No, there's no drive here. Damn, that would have been helpful. It's good, but it's all real quiet. That sounds fun, but a little messy. Yeah, it's too messy. Well, I can get away with a little bit of it. One more trick. We've got all these different ADSRs going on, and I was thinking about maybe using an LFO on that overdrive, but I think that's going to push it into the messy territory too quickly. So it occurs to me that I could take the ADSR that's pointed at the second oscillator, which was ADSR 3, and if I use that on the pan, it'll cause the pan to shift as that second oscillator comes up with the, we get the initial attack, and then it comes down, and then we get the new thing come up. As that new thing comes up, it could play with the pan gently. Like you wouldn't even notice it as like a pan effect, but it'll be cool if you're wearing headphones, I think. Should probably do this reverse since you're seeing me. It comes around. Right, that should be dramatic. Yeah. A little too dramatic there. So, like I said, I designed this so that it could be just played with one finger in the monophonic style that modular synthesis usually is, but let's give a chord a shot here. Yeah, it's too busy and crazy. That's something I've advised in a lot of videos. If you're going to do a polyphonic patch, you got to work through that at each stage to make sure that you're not making it too crazy, because now there's all kinds of phasey stuff going on with each note that you hear that wavering thing. That's phase distortion, all this other weird shit that's making it a mess. But single notes, some rowly and big. I hope you enjoyed this Let's Play. Thank you very much to my Patreon patrons for suggesting this and for sponsoring this series. Take it easy, guys. try changing this to a notch. It's a little bit more common in dub. BS means band stop, which is usually thought of as a notch filter. And here that's really playing around inside of that delay, because it's making this tight notch inside of the frequency spectrum as it's wobbling back and forth with the LFO, and the resonance is like making that really pronounced, so it's shimmering all over the place. When I now throw in a 4 on the floor pattern, which is very typical, first let me throw in some accents so that you're actually going to hear this. You hear how the bass is cutting out right there so the kick can punch through. And that's like exactly where I start almost everything. You can play around with it from there in a multitude of ways.